Oh, we got big news today. Royal Rumble. Oh, we're talking about a big potential name coming back to the WWE in the ring you've heard him on Raw and SmackDown, but you've never seen him wrestle. And get ready to stay down. We're talking about Corey Graves today on Sportskeeda Wrestling's Top Story.
This is Impact World Champion Moose, and you're watching Sportskeeda Wrestling. Like, comment, and subscribe.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out!
Watch out. Not the smoothest video introduction. Not the smoothest video introduction, but we'll go with it. Moose, the Impact World Wrestling Champion, getting us going there. We have a huge story to jump right into. That is Jeremy Bennett in Nebraska, if he asks you. I'm Kev Kellum in Chicago, Illinois, where all the noise is made. The greatest wrestling city in the world. If you disagree, get in the comments below. Share the link so you don't stink. Get into the conversation. Smash like and subscribe. All that good stuff.
Smash!
See, we already have people going saying, oh, what's going on? What? They're yelling, watch out. Molly's saying she's proud of Pittsburgh right now with this news.
Yeah.
Let's get right into it here. Corey Graves reportedly has been cleared for physical action in WWE. He has not been an in-ring performer for WWE in well over 7 or 8 years at this point.
Mm-hmm.
He has mainly been a broadcaster for the most part. He's hosted some other things, but he's been the color commentary voice of almost every WWE television show that has been out there. Started on NXT, worked his way up to the ranks. At one point was doing Raw and SmackDown and NXT at some point. Very, very talented guy. Really transitioned well. Hosts the After the Bell podcast for WWE as well. And has made a great, life for himself in wrestling without having to wrestle. And came up in the ranks in the independents, was a part of that first big class of NXT when it became the black and gold NXT, but suffered a handful of injuries, specifically concussions, that sidelined him. And then Fightful reports what today, Jeremy?
They have learned that the longtime color commentator Corey Graves has had a major status shift over the past year. This may actually go back. I think they might have learned this last year, but it's just now being discovered that Graves has been cleared by WWE doctors. Actually, it looks like Fightful updated their article at some point in 2021. Originally, the article said 2020, but it was some point last year that Graves has been cleared by WWE doctors. Largely it's been discussed behind the scenes. Of course, you saw Graves get physically involved in the 24/7 chase, him and Saxton. Previously, he was on a very strict internal no contact list with the company keeps as wrestlers, anybody you just can't contact them physically. He is no longer on that list. Fightful has confirmed that. They have yet to hear back from WWE or Corey Graves. They have reached out to both. There have been several pitches internally of a return to the ring for Graves, but none of it has really made it to fruition at this time. One person near creative actually was not made aware of the situation, but noted that Graves is in fact off the no contact list. Of course, this also included wrestlers like Scott Hall and Page, where they have actually been cleared as well and no longer on that no contact list. Graves has said himself in interviews that the return of Edge has inspired him to try to work towards getting back. And he said on After the Bell, it was inspiring. I would say 2 or 3 different points. I went, man, I was live in Pittsburgh. I should go find Dr. Maroon. It just gave me the urge to do this all over again. I don't know whether or not that's a possibility, but the thought was planted in my brain for quite some time.
It would be something. It would certainly be a really, really cool thing to do at the Rumble, and the Rumble is where you do these surprise returns. And I wonder what the audience would react to something like that. I mean, because it's worth noting that there's a lot of fans who've never seen Corey wrestle and only know him as a commentator.
A lot of that early stuff was early network. 2014, of course, if you had the network from day one, like some of us diehards have had, you remember that emotional introduction that he did at one of the very first NXT takeovers. I can't remember which one it was off the top of my head, but it was basically a retirement and then He had mentioned he got the call from Triple H saying he was being hired to work for NXT as a commentator, and it was a real emotional thing that they did actually on the kickoff show of that NXT takeover. But that was 7.5 years ago, and now here we are. I don't know. A lot of people may not. They're probably, I would say, a majority of the people are not aware of his career. Yet he had held the NXT Tag Team Championships with Pac back in the day. So
it'll certainly be interesting here. Let's jump into the comments here and see what fans are saying. Corey Graves with Dirty Dogs would be good. Ziggler and Rude. Graves cuts a promo. Maybe he's like their talking piece or something like that. I mean, it's worth noting. I wonder how much WWE will let him do. Just because there's no contact doesn't mean they're going to like put this guy right into matches and stuff like that.
Do suicide dives and everything.
Yeah. I don't know if that's the case.
There's a lot of fun that can be had. Like Steven in the chat here, obviously a little mixed tag, maybe helping Miz and Maurice to go against Edge and Beth.
He does have an established relationship with Carmella. That's known. Yeah.
Who they're engaged. Who is he constantly bickered with for the longest time?
Byron Saxton,
who used to be a wrestler.
Yes, Byron Saxton was in the first when NXT was a reality show, 2010. He was a competitor on that.
Who has constantly pelted him with ring gear and pancakes?
That's also the New Day. The New Day has done that.
There's a lot of interesting things you can do if he indeed is going to be an in-ring performer. Obviously, he is a very talented color commentator.
But the thing is, that's a haha thing, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't know if him coming in the ring for the first time that fans have ever seen, like I would say 20 to 90% of wrestling fans have ever seen him do anything physical in a ring in WWE.
Here's what they got to do.
What do you got to do?
He has to go on commentary on Raw live and declare himself for the Royal Rumble, and then they play a video package of what he did in NXT. So
they got it. I would say if you're really pulling back the curtain and not doing the surprise thing that you're going to do, because we're going to get some surprises at the Rumble. I do think there's going to be some surprises, but the idea this year of giving some of those away in advance to get people to watch the show. I could see some hardcore fans saying, no, I watched the show and none I get surprises, right? That dopamine kick you get from, wow, I didn't know I was going to get something.
But with so many people that don't know his career, I think it would be wise to announce it ahead of time.
If you're gonna go the serious route
and build it up,
if you're gonna go the serious route, if this is gonna be something where you mentioned the haha thing, where he's like, oh, now I'm gonna whip off my designer jacket and get in the ring. I'm at ringside. They've done this with I think they did this with Booker T. Booker did it when he was on commentary and got in the ring and did some stuff. Jerry Lawler did, I think, at least a few times, right?
I think there was one time where both color commentators were in the Rumble.
Yes.
It might have been Lawler. It might have been Lawler
when
and
Vince
JBL.
When Vince McMahon was in the Royal Rumble, he was in the Rumble, but just like spent most of it on commentary at ringside, right?
That's when he came in and eliminated Austin.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I'm of the thought that, if you're going to do something with him, what way do you want to go? If it's light and he gets in there and just does something physical and goes over the top rope and then it's a surprise moment.
Yeah, then do a surprise. Yeah.
Then do a surprise.
Exactly.
If you want to go the serious route and he becomes a real competitor, or at least it depends, it depends on how you want to tell that story. And if he becomes somebody that's a part of the active roster, I don't know if WWE wants him to do that.
It seems like he wants to do it, though.
Yeah, absolutely wants to do it.
Maybe he has pull. Maybe he has pull with all the goodwill he's built up. He was the guy. He was on both shows at one point. So
you pull up Raw. Okay, you pull up Raw on a Monday night, right? In the information for that show, it doesn't give you, hey, this show will feature this. It tells you who the commentators are. All right, he has been a part of WWE television for the last 7 or 8 years. All right. As the voice of all these different angles and all these different things. Also, he was one of the main presenters when they launched the WWE Network. He had his own show. Now, mind you, those shows went away. Things evolved very, very quickly with the streaming stuff. But he's been a part of a lot of different big things that WWE's done recently in this way that I think people kind of just take for granted, that you're just a presenter, you're on TV. And I do think it would be a real surprise. People say give him the 24/7 championship. He briefly won that with like a roll up, but it's a haha belt. You just roll someone up and win it. And it's like their celebrity fun thing, right?
It'd be funny, like Carmella pins Dana Brooke and then Corey jokingly pins his fiance and wins it. I like the idea of calling your shot and then give us some video packages. You got 2 more Raws? Am I right? 2 more Raws to the Rumble? Call your shot.
I'm also okay with just protecting a surprise and saving it for the Rumble on the 29th, because we already know like 7 big names that are coming back, in the women's Rumble. Are they going to protect the names and the surprises for the men's Rumble? How are they going to do it? So it is the all-star game of pro wrestling, and they do like we were talking about earlier, surprises are huge. Do you give this away? Do you tease it? You have Paige going out there on Twitter, just stirring the pot every day that she possibly can, saying that she's going to be able to get cleared from a neck injury. And so we'll see what happens.
Plus, we talked on Top Story yesterday. Bailey is been out for 9 months, and she is on Bet Online, the second favorite to win the Rumble this year, behind Bianca Belair.
Which is crazy here. Is crazy.
And there's been outside of her being a little more active on social media, there's really been no talk of her coming back early. A lot of people expected night after WrestleMania. Now, she's one of the top favorites to win the Rumble, which is insane.
Let's get into our next story here. This one is kind of serious a little bit and speaks to the wrestling industry as a whole and a serious legal action that's being taken against WWE. We will have some news about WWE having an interest in an all-elite wrestling name in the next few minutes. So who could that be? Well, don't go anywhere. We'll jump right into it. Stay on topic with us and get on screen. Let's jump into story number 2. Tell me about it, Jeremy.
Oh, real quick. This is something I just noticed. Somebody posted. I went to Paige's Twitter page. Paige and Corey Graves were trending today.
Mm-hmm.
So after Corey Graves broke, Paige started trending as well. And Paige acknowledged it and asked Queen Zelina Vega if she could borrow the crown.
Oh, wow, dude. I wonder if they're just
letting... 4 days.
Also it's worth noting if it's something where WWE doesn't feel comfortable about someone having a complete match, you can put them in the Rumble and protect them if you just want them to walk out there in their ring gear, do something light. All right, here's what you got to do. If they're doing this just for the pop and they don't feel comfortable at a full-on match, but they know something physical can happen and there is some clearance, right?
Yeah.
They did this with Edge at SummerSlam, right? In Toronto.
Yeah.
And then he came back like 9 months later in the Rumble, right? I don't know. It's certainly here's the thing. Are you excited about what WWE can do here? I am.
Well, that's the Royal Rumble every year. That's why it's my favorite pay-per-view on the calendar.
The potential surprises, things they've already announced,
Forbidden Door,
the Forbidden Door, and also just the fact of like they have a stacked roster right now. They have a really, really good mix of veterans and established names that you can have a really fun Rumble match with. So I'm excited. I'm going to be there. If you're going to be down in St. Louis, let me know. Let's grab a beer. Let's get into this story. Major League Wrestling is filing an antitrust lawsuit against WWE. Give me the details.
Again, Fightful Select coming with some news. This actually broke late last night as opposed to today, but after we had gone off the air. They have filed a lawsuit against WWE. The federal court antitrust lawsuit is based on WWE's ongoing attempts to undermine competition and monopolize the professional wrestling market by interfering with MLW's contracts and business prospects. It was not a this was public. Several months ago, Court Bauer came out and said WWE basically blocked their deal with Tubi that could have really broadened the audience for MLW. As described in the complaint, WWE pressures third parties to abandon contracts and prospective relationships. WWE's misconduct included disrupting every level of MLW's business, including the streaming deal I just mentioned. Also, there was a complaint that early last year, MLW announced they were in talks with Vice TV to air MLW. And
they've done that already. They've already aired shows with it. Yeah.
A WWE executive who I guess is no longer there warned Vice TV that Vince McMahon was pissed that they were airing MLW programs and Vice should stop working with MLW. Vice TV executive responded that conduct was illegal and an antitrust violation. So we're not talking about MLW accusing WWE now. We have Vice coming out and saying what WWE was illegal as well. This is a very interesting situation where little brother is coming after big brother, and there's a big discrepancy in the pot of money that each has. So it's gonna be very interesting to see where this plays. I mean, if they have a lot of evidence, it could go. I don't know really what they would do outside of probably getting slapped with a huge fine. I don't know. I really don't know what would happen.
Well, you're gonna go into a legal fight with WWE.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have to deal with Jerry McDevitt, who has a pretty good track record here. And WWE's already put out a statement saying that they will defend themselves against this, and they feel it's a baseless accusation and all these different things.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about the situation besides what's already out there. I've asked a couple of people to talk about this that I know who might have a take on it. And they were all aggressively like, please don't ask me about it because I don't want to say something about it because that really aggravates people, even if they know something, right? So I'm like, all right, I kind of understand the sensitivity about something like this. Let's talk about MLW's perspective. Major League Wrestling getting a Tubi deal, even though Tubi's not, I wouldn't say the biggest streaming service, it's a free one that is incredibly accessible to a lot of people that just don't want to pay for a streaming service. It's almost like Hulu before the ads. It has ads on it, but I mean, when Hulu started, it was in a beta. I remember it was in the beta testing for Hulu in like 2008, 2009. I was like,
kind of like Pluto Pluto TV.
Very similar to Pluto, but like it's in that realm of it doesn't have the prestige of now like a Hulu or a Netflix or, like an HBO Max or something like that, or a Peacock. Peacock has a lot of people on it now. So, getting on that would be a big gainer for them digitally. And that's what they were pursuing. And that was something that Court Bauer, former member of WWE, all right, a guy who understands the wrestling business quite a bit and the digital media business. He's worked in UFC and he's worked on Ring of Honor stuff as well before relaunching this promotion and getting it on television and doing BN Sports and all these different things, right? Mm-hmm. And also, I'll say this too, drawing pretty well. We're talking 2,500 people to see their TV tapings.
Mm-hmm.
Like in comparison, like that makes them that they're in Impact range then, guys. Like when you think about that, they're in Ring of Honor range in terms of syndicated television and reach and all these different things. Not saying they're huge, but they're in play. So why would WWE want to do this deal? This is and you mentioned the executive that's involved in this no longer with the company. Mm-hmm. This lays into WWE's new perspective in the sense of, yeah, we're going to compete with people. And now the strategy has been a lot more, I want to say laissez-faire, but it's a lot more like, listen, we know you're going to be with another promotion. We're going to bring in the Impact Wrestling champion. We don't feel that's going to hurt us. We don't feel that's going to hurt us anymore. We're not going to do this, hard nose approach to things. So I think the person that was let go spoke for the company maybe in a way that isn't actually representative of the company. Just because Vince McMahon's pissed off about something doesn't mean that he's going to go out and be like, let's destroy them. He's not going to be Mr. McMahon, and I think that's worth noting. If Jeff Finelli's saying MLW isn't a bad show, no, it isn't a bad show, but I do think it's one of those shows that just suffers from the idea of, there's so much wrestling, right? And when I do watch, I'm like, I need to watch more in MLW. So
that's where I discovered MJF before AEW. I discovered him on MLW. Mm-hmm. That's where I first heard of him. So,
and it's worth noting also, there's other things they're mentioning there besides this TV deal. The TV deal is going to be the major thing here. Getting them on Tubi would have been a big deal. And the fact that somebody from WWE said that is really, if it's true, if it's completely true and there's no conjecture or, misconstrued context to it, and it's reported, if that accusation is valid. I'm not saying it is because I don't know if it is, right? That's a bad look for WWE, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I don't. That doesn't mean you win this thing.
No.
I think that doesn't mean you win this lawsuit because you got to go in there with WWE, who has a very, very strong record on things like this.
Money talks.
Very strong record.
Money talks when you get the right lawyers. So
yeah, you're talking about Jerry McDevitt, dude. Mm-hmm. This guy has a hit record in terms of defending WWE. And if there's a settlement or something like that, what is settled? What was this? It's weird to think about this because WWE reportedly was talking to MLW about doing something in 2020 and wanting to get some type of development or some type of talent exchange with them, which would have been really interesting. And we were talking about that in mid 2020. Now we're not talking about that. So we're talking about something very aggressively different here. Jeff wanted to know, could AEW and MLW work down the road? Absolutely. Anything's game. But it's worth noting, MLW kind of like pull back, on the whole working with WWE type thing. Why was it? Maybe it wasn't beneficial to them. So, and also I've heard plenty of people could go on the record about this that I've talked to. I can't name anybody. There's been a concern about contract tampering a lot across the board with anyone who is in a potential play to be on a televised wrestling company. And that's been a bigger and bigger thing in terms of non-competes and all these different things. When can I talk to someone? To some people, that's a legal gray area. To other people, it's very, very clear when I'm allowed to talk about stuff or when I'm allowed to mention the idea of me wrestling for somebody else beyond other people speculating on my honor.
Yeah, it happens in sports all the time. Contract tampering and things like that. When sometimes teams get in trouble for that and get heavy fines.
Proving it is very, very hard. So the legal like, can you prove this beyond the shadow of a doubt that somebody came and talked to you when you were under a contract with somebody? It's pretty hard. And then what's the window on it? It's worth noting. Chris Jericho went on the record. He's like, yeah, I was signed to WCW, and then I went to Vince McMahon's house to talk about what you wanted me to do if I signed with WWE, which could that be? You know what I mean? And also this too. There's a bunch of people like, what's the coolest thing in wrestling? What's cooler than any wrestler that anyone likes? Jeremy, I've told you for a long time. What's the coolest thing in wrestling? Covering your eyes and just yelling WWE sucks. So that crowd is gonna jump on this thing and say, look at the evil empire and all this different stuff, right? So more food for the smart mark masses in that regard, right?
Oh yeah.
Let's jump into story number 3. What do you got for me, Jeremy?
Wrestle Votes on Twitter, of course, a very reputable source, has reported today that WWE internally has their eyes on AEW superstar Wardlow. Wrestle Votes tweeted out today with his biggest match to date happening later tonight against CM Punk. WrestleVotes can confirm without hesitation that WWE is extremely interested in luring Wardlow away from AEW when his contract is due. There are several people within WWE that love his potential. A lot of wrestlers signed 3-year deals, which end this year, but still no word. WrestleVotes could not confirm either of when Wardlow's deal expires, if it is indeed this year or not. Interestingly enough, Wardlow was interviewed by Mike Johnson at PW Insider and says that he wants to be an AEW lifer. So it's kind of interesting how both stories kind of came out today with Mike Johnson interviewing Wardlow ahead of the biggest match of his career tonight on Dynamite. And so it's kind of interesting how the timing of the two. So obviously WWE is going to make a big push, but you got to wonder, does Wardlow want to make that jump? It almost does not seem he wants to when it comes to staying in AEW. He said this with his interview with Mike Johnson. He said, yeah, I talked about this last night. Actually, in 10 or 20 years, I'm going to be so excited and proud to look back and say I was one of the AEW originals, and that means so much to me. As the world knows, my career started with AEW, and it's going to end with AEW. So obviously WWE wants, but apparently Wardlow right there on tape sounds like he's not interested.
Who knows? Maybe when a certain number gets thrown in front of you, your mind changes a little bit, right?
Yeah, probably.
Maybe a certain agreement to here's what you can do and here's what you can't do there and here's what we can offer. Who knows? And I'm not speaking for Wardlow, right?
Yeah. Well, here's his quote. I am beyond blessed. I don't think there's any convincing me that the grass is greener on the other side. Very, very happy with AEW.
That's a really bold statement there. That's like him saying I'm not even looking at it.
Yeah, very, very happy with AEW and the way I'm treated and just how the whole company is ran head to toe.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, look at the guy. Looks like $1 million. He's had some exciting matches for a guy who's only been in the ring. Mm-hmm. He's got that Braun Breaker kind of circumstance to him in the sense of someone we've only seen wrestle a limited amount. He's wrestled more than Breaker has, right? He's been on television, been on the road, all these different things, right?
Has a Roman Reigns look to him as well.
He has that look, the definitive look of a wrestler. We've heard this many, many times from veteran wrestler, people who recruit, producers and stuff like that, coaches. I've heard from them. They want the X factor. They want you walk through an airport and people turn their head and say, that guy could kick someone's ass. Look at Wardlow. No, he could kick someone's ass. I think that's on the surface, but WWE sees that as well. And you have, a Diesel. You have that big, brawny, the guy looks like an action figure out of the box type guy. He looks like He-Man. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a strength. And I know there's some fans who are like, no, I want people are reverting back to the hits. Like coming out of the pandemic, people want to get back to the hits, man. And he is a hit right out of the box. So it'd be interesting to see this. People saying it kind of reminds me of Brian Cage. Speaking about people who could potentially jump from WWE or wrestling to WWE, Brian Cage has been on that discussion.
He hasn't wrestled since October.
Hasn't wrestled on television since October. And it's worth noting that the idea of names going from All Elite Wrestling to WWE, we haven't seen it happen yet. You know what I mean? That hasn't happened yet. We've seen people from plenty of big names.
Going to happen this year. Somebody's going to do it.
It's going to happen this year. It's going to happen this year. Whether it's going to be a huge name or it's going to be one or two people, it's going to happen. And I do worry about the political ramifications on the person that does that. The person that does that is basically buying a bunch of internet heat that they didn't intend to get. Whoever that person is, and you know exactly what I'm saying. That the cult of AEW, the people that are very, very loyal and Tony Khan, that crowd.
It goes both ways, though.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's tons of people that went off on Brian Danielson about going to WWE.
I
loved it.
Brian
I thought it was great. It was fun.
It almost seems inevitable. I mean, he doesn't seem happy. You could tell that Melissa saying it publicly. He just does not seem happy.
You're talking about Brian Cage.
Yeah.
Okay.
I tell you what, though.
Is there an offer for him at WWE? It's worth noting. You know what I mean? You're talking about this guy's 37. Is that the type of guy they wanted? They had a 37-year-old big brawny guy named Braun Strowman. Let him go.
Yeah, you wonder. You wonder with all their shift and want to build things from the ground up. You wonder, but again, there's a guy that is impressive with what he can do in the ring with that size, and I just wonder if Vince could not say no to that.
Jackson Rick saying WWE could look at him as like a Batista type character. Yeah, he does have a Batista type vibe to him. That's correct.
Tell you what, if he knocks it out of the park with Punk, which I fully expect tonight, WWE is going to have a lot more eyes on him than they already do. So they're going to probably
make Wardlow look strong. Make him look strong.
Punk will do that.
Yeah, this would be crazy here. Other people say put him on NXT. I don't know if he would be. If he jumped, hypothetically, Wardlow was in WWE. I don't know if he.
I don't think. Yeah, I would assume.
Also, he wouldn't be called Wardlow. I don't think WWE would call him Wardlow as well.
No.
So it is definitely interesting. There are several reported people in the All Elite ranks, saying too many letters, that have contracts that could run up in this year and could potentially be in play. Does that mean they come over? I don't know.
Speaking of contracts, Tony Schiavone announcing today that he has signed an extension.
There you go. Good for Tony.
Two more years. 2 more years with AEW guaranteed. So,
yeah. Other people saying MJF would be great. Of course, MJF would be great.
Speaking of MJF, this story just came out. Apparently MJF just got roasted by Wendy's. Wendy's, the fast food chain.
Their Twitter account does not miss. The Wendy's Twitter account is the smart ass corporate branded Twitter account.
So apparently something about National Roast Day and AEW on TV's Twitter account says it's MJF's favorite day of the year. And Wendy's responded with, "This is how explosive your tweets are." And they showed a screenshot of the Eddie Kingston, John Moxley explosion that didn't happen. This is how explosive your tweets are. Wah, wah.
Got him. All right. So that's an episode of Top Story for us. Jeremy will be busy once again with Lost in the Mid-Card, relaunching some point soon, correct?
Yeah, we'll figure it out. But in the meantime, if you want to see what we're all about, we have over 300 episodes, almost 7 years worth of content on YouTube. Go to just search for Lost in the Mid-Card and you'll find it right there. We also have podcast version as well. Just hit the one that says new feed if that's more of your style. Other than that, you'll see me here Monday through Friday most days, and we may have an extra surprise show for you coming up, Rumble related.
Yeah, the next 2 weekends, we're going to be doing some big Rumble stuff, so keep an eye out for that as well. Speaking outside of WWE, Impact Wrestling has been making some moves here, all right? Making some big ones here. We got to talk to the new Impact Wrestling World Champion, Moose, all right? Moose spoke to us, so you got to see him do the intro for us. That was
cool. Nice of Moose to do that. Nice
very,
of Moose.
Very thankful for him doing that. We will talk to him about his connection from pro football into pro wrestling. Very interesting. That'll be dropping on our channel this week as well. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and subscribe to Sportskeeda Wrestling on the YouTubes. If you're on the YouTubes, that's where you gotta do it. You gotta do it on the tubes, brah. All right. And you can also check us out on Spotify and Apple. Our podcast feed is popping off there as well. Give us a 5-star review. If you are a podcast person and you watch some of our show on audio or video, but you could passively put us on, like while you're doing laundry or something like that, make us part of your day. That's what we're trying to do. All right. No problem shouting out all the diehards. Shout out to the Victor Nashes. Shout out to the Nishads, Vinesh, to Steven Chambers, to Jason, everyone who's with us live, everyone who's watching on demand. Tell us where you're watching the show from. Maybe you don't want to jump in the conversation. You just want to watch. Just tell us where you're watching the show from. I love hearing from people in all the different points in the globe, enjoying the old virtual couch that we've created here. That is Sportskeeda Wrestling. Please remember, when watching wrestling, do the most important thing, mere wrestling mortal person, which is what, Jeremy Bennett of Nebraska?
Enjoy the wrestling. Yeah!
Yes.
Watch out, watch out!